Amy?
I think that's also an issue of perseveration. I mean, I think that they have difficulty being able to apply their understanding in a different context. I mean, they can know that 3 plus 5 equals 8, but are they able to manipulate that knowledge and be able to say that 5 plus 3 is 8? I think they get fixated on the way things, they look at things in one way and have difficulty, assuming different perspectives on one.
Some of our kids are one-way kids. This is the only way you do it. You don't call anything but a car is a haul. You can't haul something on your back. Same thing. Yes, Sonia.
The other thing I noticed in the same problem is, the difficulty children have with parts to hold. So when you're giving them the whole answer and then having them divided into parts, that may be difficult for them. So that would cause difficulty in that sort of problem.
As you know, in a lot of the teaching that we do, we try and group things together for the children to see a group of objects. And we use bags, we use boxes, we use games, anything for them to see groups of objects and to see what happens. Donvix has made a game that really teaches kids what is the difference between a city, a state, a nation, and a continent. Because they mix it up all the time. Our kids come in and say, I went to New York. It's a great continent. Somebody else says, no, it's a nation. And so this is what really encouraged us to make games of this sort. And Bob, would you show it?
I have a class of 11, and these two particular students are having a difficult time remembering the difference between a city and a state. So what I do is I speak to them individually or as small groups. And what I say is, one way that you can remember a continent is larger than a country, and one way I have a continent box here. When we pulled the 7 continents apart, we found that one of them was North America. We're going to look for a box, and this is what we call a country. And you pull up the country, and guess what we're going to find? In the country, we have a box. There should be 50 boxes with all different states. We open the box, and guess what? You're absolutely right. There's Delaware State. There's Delaware. And inside the state, we have a city box. And like you said, Wilmington.
As we know, about 80% of our kids have language problems as well as learning disabilities. They have language-based learning disabilities. And so just the fluency of language is difficult for them. The vocabulary, the timing, all of it. But then when you deal with multiple meanings and inferences, they are really lost. And so we found that, for example, when we were studying Egypt and we were studying the Nile, that when we started talking about the gifts of the Nile, all the children could think of were birthday gifts. And they didn't understand at all what we were talking about. So what we did was wrap up some things here, and we said, here are some gifts of the Nile. And when they opened them up, they found papyrus in here, they found irrigation here, and they found something else there that was gave them the idea that this was not necessarily a birthday gift for them, but it was something good that happened from the Nile. Jude, you're a speech language pathologist. Explain why there's so much difficulty.
Sally, it's so true that so much of the work we do in speech and language is with meaning and working with the semantics of meaning and then taking the meaning and trying to put it in sentences and having the kids be able to deal with words on different levels. I'm reminded of the fact that when we test kids around here on a monument, if we ask them to look at a picture and they can say the word monument, they can always choose what a monument is. But when they have to deal with a monumental idea, that step is very difficult. And the way we would do it is just the way that Sally's describing. Look at a picture of a monument. Tell me about it. It's solid. It's big. It's terrific. And that is how we take the concept and move along. But we, for instance, when we're doing reading, and I know Pam will back me up on this, when we're doing reading comprehension, we need to make these checks all the time to make sure that the meaning that is in the sentence is actually the one that the children are connecting with it. Because very often they're going off on a different tack, and it's not a wrong tack, but it's not the context or that particular meaning that goes with the word.
Since many of our kids have problems as well with comprehension, not just language, and their thinking is concrete, we very often have to turn lessons into activities, into projects, into all kinds of exercises that are literal and concrete.
Well, we're going to pass out a cake for each one of you, and you'll notice that the cake is on paper plate. Well, Pangea was a theory that there was one time over couple hundred million years ago, the Earth had just one continent. And the cake is going to represent the Earth as one continent. And do you know what's underneath the continent? What's this? Plates. Yeah, they're plates. Excellent. You're going to look to see how many pieces the plate has been cut into, and how many pieces do you think?
7.
7. Oh, wow. You know what? I forgot to tell you, Pangea has 7 letters, and guess what? Guess how many continents? 7 continents. 7's the lucky number today. Pangea would be the one continent. And then as the plates move, could everybody get an edge of a plate?
Oh, I remember where I heard that.
Let's look up at the key. What color do you think Asia's going to be? Very good. And guess what? I just so happen to have red icing. This is really thin icing. You can draw a panda, or you could draw, what would be on North America?
Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty.
The Great Barrier Reef, yes, the largest coral reef in the world.
Kangaroo.
The kangaroo, yes, we know.
I did the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall is so big that
When we want to discuss the balance of power of the United States government, reading it in textbooks or hearing electronics does not work with our kids. Doing an activity first and then hearing about it does work. So we start out with balance. And I'd like to have 3 volunteers, Noel and Jennifer and Amanda. Would you come on up? All right. We're going to just do people. Balance.
Well, one way to show balance is to put your hands out like this, ready? And then just lean back, right? And we're balancing each other out.
Okay.
2.
So we're doing a seesaw.
Another way, so you could go back, right, like that, and then I can go back like this. But it's showing balance between 2. The more one person leans back, the more the other one comes up.
All right, now if there were 3 of you that were trying to balance, how would you do it?
Well, we could do it the same way, or we could use just a simple elastic like this. Each of us could take one like this, and then we're going to interlock these. So go ahead and put yours around too. There we go. All right, and this is a way of showing balance power in the 3 arms of the government. Jennifer is going to be the president, Amanda is going to be the judicial, and I'll be the legislature. And in this system, I guess you could say democracy is in the center here. And if one of those arms of power starts to control too much of the government, the other 2 can pull democracy back into the center. So let's say the president gets really greedy for power. So Jennifer, start pulling that way, but we can start pulling it back the other way, back towards the center, like so. And it balances out. Same thing goes, let's say, if the judges try to be real activists, go ahead and pull that. We can pull it back the other way, back towards the center. And so that gets, this would be a way of activating a schema on understanding how you could have a balance, not just 2 ways, but 3 ways. and you'd go on from there, discuss the balance of power.
Excellent. Yep.